Final drive that the Eagles make, a complete defensive breakdown, a total missed assignment on the receiver that wound up catching that pass from Carson Wentz. And then what happens?
Alshon Jeffrey.
Alshon Jeffrey was the one that wound up catching that pass just to stop the clock.
19-yard pass, and then Jake Elliott.
Rookie.
The fifth-round guy who was selected by the Bengals was cut by them this year, picked up by the Eagles because Caleb Sturgis had an injury, who was their regular place kicker. He sets up for the 61-yard field goal and gets it through the bottom right corner of the uprights.
And then came this famous, I think it was Instagram or Snapchat video in which Elliott's parents, who were at the game, wind up videoing the game-winning field goal, and then they're seen embracing
27-24
in the stands.
Did you see inside the NFL, they carried him out of the field like it was the end
like he had just won a Super Bowl for them.
It was like the end of Rudy.
Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, I'm happy for the kid. I mean, after being dumped in training camp, after being a fifth-round pick and getting a second chance in Philly, good for him that he was able to cash in on his big kick. And the fact that it was a 61-yard field goal, which is probably one of the longest field goals in NFL history. I mean, it doesn't compare to the one that was made in Denver all those years ago, but still, he made a lot of friends making that kick. And now the Giants have to go into Tampa with an 0-3 record. This is only going to go from bad to worse for them. Now, as far as the Jets are concerned,
McCown throws a 69-yard pass to Robbie Anderson, pinpoint accuracy play. The Jets end up nearly shutting out the Dolphins up until the last play of the game by the Dolphins, which led to a touchdown. But
well, that's academic. But the bottom line is the Jets actually played some terrific defense for a change. And right now, the best defensive player on the Jets is Jamal Adams. He's being really touted by the media after the first 3 games. He's really held his own. Let's see what the Jets can do against a team like Jacksonville, which suddenly has gone from terrible to being maddeningly inconsistent. This is why I say this is a real trap game for the Jaguars.
I know. The Jets won 26 against Dolphins. Now let's go into last night. The Bears lost to the Packers on Thursday Night Football 35-14, including a strip sack fumble made by Clay Matthews, which led to a Devontae Adams touchdown. There was a weather delay, but at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers led them to a 35-14 victory. There was a nasty hit, though, that was on, I believe, on Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I hope that he will be all right.
Well, fortunately, he was able to get some feeling in all of his extremities, which means he's going to be able to walk again. But that's beside the point.
Danny Trevathan should never did that.
Yeah. Again, why doesn't the NFL crack down on hits like this? This is why we've already seen a whole bunch of college kids pass away from major hits at all levels of the game. Who's to say that we're not going to have a casualty in the NFL?
I know. They really need to curb it. The guy it was unnecessary. The play was pretty much dead at that point. You know, sometimes there are players who should be able to understand, but at the same time, they're going to say, well, it's what's going on in the game. Sometimes it's impossible to stop. I think that's BS, but that's besides the point. Let's go into the rest of week 4. Jaguars, Jets. This could be a trap game. If I had to go with a team, I am actually inclined this week to go with the Jets. Why? Jaguars are coming from a long plane trip to London. Yes, they had a big 44-7 performance against the Ravens, but at the same time, usually teams like that have wins like that tend to not be able to live up to those type of performances week 2. But if I'm the Jets, you better keep your eyes on Leonard Fournette. Load the box up. Get in Blake Bortles' grill. Force him to make mistakes because he's known mostly to do that.
And if I'm the Jets, well, for one, the Jets are going to be a little short in manpower because Matt Forte is going to be out of the game because he hurt his toe. And they're also missing another guy because of a knee injury. So that means, should the Jets put it all on Josh McCown's hands? Not necessarily. Maybe give the ball to Bilal Powell a little bit more. or maybe have their defense try and dictate the tempo of this game, which is really saying a lot because you do not want your defense on the field for about 40 minutes of the game. It's crucial that the Jets put together a really good, consistent first drive, long drive, to try and set the tone for this game.
So who do you think will win this game?
I still say Jacksonville. Jacksonville is much better.
Giants, Buccaneers. I'm going with the Bucs, obviously. I think last week was a bad formality for the Buccaneers. They're still without their linebackers, Kwan Alexander and Levante David, which if the Giants in this game, they want to win, they have to take advantage of those missed players right there, especially in the secondary. So that's where maybe we might see a bit more of Brandon Marshall. But as for the Buccaneers, Mike Evans had a terrible Week 3 performance in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was so bad, he kicked a trash can on the sideline.
Well, can you really blame him? I mean, they were dreadful last week. But this time they're going up against a Giants team whose offensive line stinks, whose running game stinks, and whose defense has gotten really, really vulnerable. And the Giants have major problems with scrambling quarterbacks. That's why I like Tampa in this one.
I thought you were going with the Giants for a second.
I can't pick a team that is suddenly problematic offensively.
Redskins, Chiefs. This is a game, basically, you got two really good offensive squads. Really, though, it's going to be the high-powered offense of the Chiefs versus the defense of the Redskins. Look for the mat, especially where the linebacking core is going to be lined up to try and counteract Kareem Hunt. That's where the game could really take place.
This is such an interesting matchup. A Redskins team.
Monday Night Football. The last time the Chiefs
Monday Night Football, yeah,
played Monday night, they beat the Patriots 41-14. And, of course, the Patriots went on to win the Super Bowl that year.
Yep. Such an interesting matchup featuring two teams whose quarterback play has been really, really solid, although Alex Smith, I think, is the better quarterback of the two. And also, when you think about it, the Chiefs' running game is a lot better, and defensively, they're just really, really powerful. That's why I like Kansas City in this one.
You know, Kansas City has an NFL record 9 consecutive games of scoring 50-plus yard touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs as well. The firepower in offense is going to be a lot more difficult for the Redskins to try and stop than last week against the Raiders.
Speaking of the Raiders, they have the Broncos this weekend, the first meeting between these two teams, these two hated rivals this season.
In the AFC West.
And both teams are coming off really bad losses, and they're going to try and take it out on somebody. When you think about it, the Raiders are better at quarterback, but the Broncos historically have played their best football at home, and you consider a really good running game plus really strong defensive play by the Broncos, I think this might lead up to a Bronco victory here.
This is the battle of the pass rushers. Von Miller, Khalil Mack. Whoever wins that match, their team wins. And I'm going with this week Von Miller and that Broncos defense to have a turnaround performance. Hopefully Von Miller won't commit the mistake he did last week against Tyrod Taylor. So I am going with the Broncos this week. Lions, Vikings, talking about another hated rivalry in the NFC North right here.
Yeah, going back to the old black and blue division in the old NFC Central. But this time, something tells me that the Vikings are going to be kicked off their high horse because the Lions are just better at quarterback. I think the Vikings are slightly better defensively, but the Lions, who I've accused of being basically a one-trick pony because it's basically Matthew Stafford and nobody else. He doesn't have a running game to back him up.
I disagree. If you look at Theo Riddick and you look at Amir Abdullah and the fact that you have Golden Tate and Kenny Galladay and Eric Ebron at tight end, they do have some firepower, you know.
Well, Amir Abdullah had a really good career at Nebraska, but quite frankly, he needs to get the ball more if he's going to try and prove himself in this game. That's why I say the Lions are a one-trick pony. But I still say Detroit wins this one because, quite frankly, Matthew Stafford is 10 times better than Case Keenum will ever be as a quarterback.
And this is where I'm going opposite you, actually. I'm going to go with the Vikings this week because of Dalvin Cook. I think he'll have a good performance against Ziggy Ansah and the defense. And by the way, the Minnesota defense, this is going to be the toughest defense the Lions have faced besides Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And look what happened last week. especially in the first half. But the fact they nearly came back, this is going to be a very compelling match. Probably the best matchup of the week. Now, Bills, Falcons. Who would have thought the Bills going into Atlanta 2-1 against the undefeated Falcons 3-0? This, to me, is the high-powered Atlanta offense against the high-powered Bills defense. By the way, the Bills are the only defense in the league to have not allowed a single passing touchdown on the season.
And that really says a lot because the Bills are really strong in the secondary. But look who they're going up against this time. Matt Ryan, a guy who has already proven himself. He's in his 10th season. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's gotten so much better with each game. And I really think that he gets better with each loss, even though the Falcons are undefeated this season. And look who the Bills have. Tyrod Taylor, a guy who has not proven anything whatsoever. I like Atlanta in this one.
I like Atlanta, too. You're right. Julio Jones is different than the other receivers they have faced, especially weeks ago when they played, the Panthers, where they beat them 9-3. This is apples and oranges, this type of offense. Yeah, the Falcons definitely get this victory. Now you got the Steelers and the Ravens. Talk about hated rivals in the AFC North right here. At least, 12 of the past 18 matchups have been decided by 1 point or less. By a touchdown or less, or 3 points or fewer. So it's going to be another classic close matchup. But look what happened last week to Joe Flacco against Jacksonville.
He got his teeth kicked in every which way but loose. But now I think the fact that their hated rivals are coming into their house, he's going to be licking his chops a little bit.
I'm going the Steelers in this one. To me, even though they're in Baltimore, and Baltimore has been a 10-9 place for Roethlisberger in the era,
Well, let me tell you, the Ravens are the one team that knows Big Ben's strengths and weaknesses and knows how to exploit them. And you also consider that Joe Flacco is going to want to try and prove himself that he could still be a force in this game. I still think he can be a force in this game. He's got the Super Bowl title to prove it. I like Baltimore in this one.
But you guys got 2 Super Bowl rings and 3 appearances more than Flacco. And on top of that, the Killer Bees are really going to do something to that secondary, the Ravens. They better have their A game. Now, Panthers visiting the New England Patriots in Gillette Stadium.
This looks really ugly, I'm going to tell you right now. Because even though Carolina is 2-1, they had the most embarrassing loss last week, and I'm telling you, there is something wrong with Cameron Newton. It's not just his shoulder. I think he's got a really bad combination of psychological and mechanical problems to his throws. And when you think about it, going into New England, way too much to try and ask Cam Newton to solve this thing all by himself. New England is winning this one hands down.
I like to see what the match between Luke Kuechly versus Rob Gronkowski. I think that's going to be probably the most intriguing of the entire day in terms of storylines. But at the end of the day, I think Gronkowski will have a 2-touchdown performance. Look for Tom Brady to probably be out of the game by, say, the fourth quarter. So we might see Jimmy Garoppolo play more. Yeah, I'm going with the Patriots. Now you got the Rams visiting the Cowboys. A 1 o'clock game. Both 2-1. And Rams,
both featuring second-year quarterbacks, Jared Goff and Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And also featuring 2 really, really good running games. Todd Gurley on one side and Zeke Elliott on the other side.
So this is turning out to be one of the best. This could be also another one of the best games of the week type of matches that we see. And it will be an electric atmosphere at Jerry World. And DeMarcus Lawrence last week had a 3-sack performance. If I'm the Rams offensive line, they better be on their high guard, especially on the left side, to try and protect Jared Goff from DeMarcus Lawrence. And if I am the Cowboys right there offensively, you better try and exploit that secondary of the Rams, because let's not forget, the Rams gave up 39 points last week. They nearly blew a 41-25 lead on Thursday night against the 49ers. Probably one of the best matchups of the season.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Cowboys, I think they're going to lick their chops. Look for a lot of Cole Beasley to be a part of this offensive performance.
Yeah,
I'm going Cowboys.
I like Dallas as well. I don't feel the Rams are as good defensively as people make them out to be, especially considering that a weak 49ers squad torched them for 39 points.
Which is really saying something. And Brian Hoyer is usually not a great quarterback. Now, Titans, Texans, AFC South. For years, the Texans have won back-to-back AFC South division titles. Deshaun Watson could be the long-term solution at quarterback with the way he's playing and nearly led the Texans to a victory in Gillette Stadium last week. Now they're going up against a very tough Titans team that is strong offensively, and I mean really strong.
Yeah, really strong. At quarterback, in the backfield, at receiver. That's why I say Tennessee wins this game. Houston's not there yet.
I think they will be there this week, even though with some of the issues they had against New England. But I'm going with Houston. I'm going to go J.J. Watt getting in Marcus Mariota's grill this week for 2 sacks. Now, the Colts go on to Seattle, Sunday Night Football. And at this time, the schedule makers were thinking that you were going to see Andrew Luck and Marshawn Lynch. Well, that's not happening.
Nope. Instead, they're going to be seeing Jacoby Brissett and whoever the starting running back for the Seahawks is. I think it's Alfred Morris, isn't it?
No, you have Chris Carson, who's really their number one right now, the rookie. Then you have Thomas Rawls.
Thomas Rawls.
He's having injury issues, and the other player, Eddie Lacy, who they got from Green Bay, is lacking on this team. But as for the game itself, you're going to an environment in Seattle on Sunday night. Loud as can be, one of the loudest.
Communication is going to be a really big problem, just like it is at every Seahawks home game.
So if I'm the Colts, they better practice with loud sounds. But that's hard to imitate what you're really going to be facing, especially with the Seahawks crowd. They're going to get it revved up. I think the defense is going to be on point this time. And this Colts team barely won. They blew a week 2 lead and blew almost week 3. There's no way they can play like that and think they're going to beat the Seahawks in Seattle. And with the time deficit, difference, I'm going Seattle. I think we're going to see a lot more firepower this week, and I think the running game will be on point.
Yeah, I like Seattle as well. The Colts are the perfect tonic for the Seahawks to try and get themselves to 500.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yep.
dun, 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 dun.
Back to London once again for Saints and Dolphins. This has the potential to be pretty high scoring because when you consider the fact that the Saints can score points in bunches in any game with Drew Brees, and the Dolphins have a chance to do so with Jay Cutler, but let's face facts. It's Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler is garbage. Jay Cutler has always been garbage. And you can... he can thank having Jay Ajayi as a running back to give the ball to, because if not, he would not have anyone on that offensive front.
Well, that's why they lost, because Jay Ajayi was garbage as well, held to 22 yards. In fact, he is hurt. He's not even going to be able to play this week. And you look at the fact that they've lost 2 of their linebackers to season-ending injuries. Kiko Alonso has a shoulder injury. Who knows if he's going to be able... So that Dolphins defense is hurting right now. And offensively, he has weapons. He has Devontae Parker. He's got Jarvis Landry. He's got Kenny Stills. And he's got Julius Thomas. He's got 4 reliable options to throw to. So... he's going to really have to try and get on point and in sync with them this coming week if they even want to win. But I'll be honest, Drew Brees is going to work the field and he's going to shred them, especially Michael Thomas.
Who would you want to start a fantasy team with as your quarterback? Drew Brees or Jay Cutler?
Drew Brees.
I'll take Drew Brees any day of the week. And
Saints.
let me tell you, he's 38 years old right now, but he could still zing the ball with the youngest and the best of them.
Yeah, 10 times better than Jay Cutler. Jay, I think you should have taken that offer from Fox after all. Now, Eagles, Chargers. The Eagles are going to be without Darren Sproles for the season, unfortunately. A former Charger who will not be in this game. So now you're going into a LA Chargers fan base. You know the guy who has the Bolt mask? He's not even allowed to go to games anymore wearing that mask. This whole new environment sucks in LA.
Now do you see why the Chargers still belong in San Diego as opposed to a 30,000 or a 25,000 seat soccer stadium in Carson, California?
The only good thing about the Chargers really is Joey Boss and Melvin Ingram in that defensive front 7. Other than that, Philip Rivers, and I love the guy and respect him, but he had a terrible week 3 performance. He threw he had 3 costly turnovers that led to 17 points for the Chiefs. This week he's going up against an Eagles team that just had an impressive game-ending victory against the Giants. The Eagles are going to do the same thing. They're going to have another impressive performance. Look for Alshon Jeffrey to torch that secondary.
All Eagles all the time in this one. No comparison.
Fly, Eagle, fly. Like the song? Fly, Eagles, fly
brother.
to victory.
Yep.
49ers, Cardinals.
This is a big game for the Cardinals. They cannot afford to drop 3 out of 4 to start the first quarter of the season, because if they do, there's no recovering from this. I think the 49ers might be the perfect tonic for them, even in spite of their 39-point outburst against the Rams last week. Seriously, does anybody expect Brian Hoyer to repeat his performance against the Rams in this game? No, because I think the Rams are a little bit better defensively than I think the Cardinals are better defensively than the Rams are. That's why I say the Cardinals win this game.
I'll be honest, the Cardinals will win too. Reason why? They're getting back Mike Iupati, a former 49er, by the way, offensive lineman, and DJ Humphries. That's huge. But my problem with the Cardinals, they still cannot run the ball. And if you look at what's happened since the Week 1 dislocated wrist of David Johnson and his injury, he's out indefinitely. They've had to use Kerwin Williams, Chris Johnson, and Andre Ellington. Ellington, by the way, a former 49er. These guys cannot match the offensive intensity or power that David Johnson has. In fact, that's why they are 29th in the NFL in rushing yards at 59 yards a game on the ground. And that's pitiful right there. As opposed to the 49ers who at least have Carlos Hyde, whether he's 100% or 75%, better than all 3 of these guys combined. That's why I'm going with the 49ers to win this week. Now,
then you go to this. The battle, more like the
toilet bowl.
More like the laughingstock. The 2 laughingstocks in the state of Ohio, the Bengals and the Browns, are going to be going against each other. To be quite honest with you, I couldn't even begin to tell you who's going to win this game. I could say the Bengals because, quite frankly, they're better at quarterback and at receiver.
They at least had a lead last week. The Browns seldom this season can't even sustain a lead, and if they even attempt to get a lead, DeShone Kizer is too busy turning the ball over. You look at the combined Chris Hogan and DeShone Kizer, 4 touchdowns. You know how many interceptions? 8 in 3 weeks. That is pitiful beyond belief. And Kizer is making these boneheaded rookie mistakes. Yes, he's a rookie, but still, he's holding on to the ball for too damn long. He's not playing sound, smart football. His receivers at times don't help him when he needs it. Or if he does get an open receiver, he either misses it or overthrows it, or he basically gets, or his offensive line drops the ball, literally. So it doesn't matter. They screw up in every which way you can possibly think of for the Browns. The Bengals had a 21-7 lead, and they blew it in overtime.
Yep.
That's what kills me. Both these teams are terribly defensively, and the Browns are still missing Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
Since he injured his leg on September 6th, 4 days before the season began.
There's also one other thing to figure. Andy Dalton dominates the Browns. He's won 9 out of 12 meetings against his in-state rivals. Consider this 10 out of 13 because I like the Bengals in this one.
I like the Bengals too. And here's the thing with the Bengals. Last week when they had the ball in overtime, why did they run the ball instead of getting the ball to your best weapon in A.J. Green? That was terrible play calling on the
way too conservative right there. You've got to try and take some risks with your passing game.
Because A.J. Green was having a good performance against that Packers secondary. And as for the Browns, again, this week if they want to win, they got to get Isaiah Crowell going, and they also got to get something going for that running offense. So that's it. Which game are you looking forward to this week? For me, college football-wise, my Gators have the Commodores, who got trashed by the
I want to see how the 2 local teams do this week. This is the Jets' best chance to break 500 for the only time this season.
That's
Have
true.
a little something to feel good about going into the second quarter of the year.
But what if the Jags are 3-1? Imagine that. The former Giants head coach Tom Coughlin in the front office, and the New York local kid Doug Maroney, who could have been with the Jets, who should have been hired in 2015 over Todd Bowles, gets one over on the Jets for not giving a chance.
Well, it just goes to show you how great of a football guy Tom Coughlin is. Ever since he returned, keep in mind, he was the very first head coach that the Jaguars had, and he made them very, very strong.
99.
Four consecutive playoff appearances, 2 AFC Championship game appearances. They really missed him when he was away, and now he's back, and he's fixing things in his mold. That's why the Jaguars are 3-1 now.
And that's why I think the Jets will win. But the only way they will lose is if McCown makes boneheaded moves and throws it towards A.J. Bowie and Jalen Ramsey, those two secondary players for the Jaguars. That's what scares me. So that's why the offensive line's got to do a good job protecting him. We got to see plenty of Robbie Anderson in this game. And can we see some more Austin Severian Jenkins? I want to see more of the tight end involved because the Jets still have not had a tight end touchdown in years.
Yep.
Finally, and as for the Giants, this is a pitiful season. It's god-awful.
And it's only going to get worse after Sunday.
If things are this bad for the Giants, who would have thought that the Giants would have been 0-3? I thought they would have been at least 2-1 at this point right now.
And there's already some unhappiness with one with one head coach's play calling in this game. Ben McAdoo, the love affair with this guy has suddenly gone out the window.
Yeah, well, he's trying to do the same Green Bay Packers West Coast offensive scheme with Eli Manning. It was working with Tom Coughlin, but Ben McAdoo is just, I don't know, he's maybe not getting through the players. In fact, he tried to throw Eli under the bus for this performance.
You know what? It doesn't really surprise me, especially considering that Eli has gotten off to a really slow start. But at the same time, this is the guy that's won 2 titles in the past. Ben McAdoo just got there maybe 3 years ago. I mean, what has he been looking at and where has he gone? But then again, who's the one that's making the majority of the play calls? Ben McAdoo.
My favorite game to look forward, other than the New York area coming up this week, is definitely going to be, I think L.A. and Dallas is going to be huge this week.
I want to see exactly which Rams team shows up here. This is their biggest chance to get a signature win for the season.
And will you see Joe Flacco actually rehabilitate his game or revive his game? And on top of that, Detroit and Minnesota, this could be electric in terms of offensive firepower right here. This is where the secondaries, especially you got Xavier Rhodes and Darius Slay. That's another storyline to look at. Which corner has the best day? There's just so much action and fun to look forward to in week 4 of the NFL season. Jamie, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, the audience, for watching and tuning in, as always, every single week. For all the hardworking men and women at CTV, for Mr. Kenny Graham that was behind the glass, for Jamie, the sportsman, Legend Hickson, I'm Eric Rosen. We'll see you here for another episode of the Blitz Zone next week on CTV. Good night, Staten Island.